Before the pyramids, before the first city-states of Sumer, and even before humanity as we know it, there was Nibiru, a distant celestial body, locked in an elongated orbit around our sun. Nibiru was home to a powerful and ancient race. They called themselves the Anunnaki, a term that translates roughly as those who from heaven to earth came. But their origins did not begin with Earth. Their story begins with crisis. According to Sumerian texts and the interpretations of Zecharia Sitchin, Nibiru was a planet with a highly elliptical orbit, taking 3,600 years to complete one circuit around the Sun. This long orbit brought environmental instability, particularly in its atmosphere. Over time, a crisis emerged. Nibiru's atmosphere, once protective and life-sustaining, began to break down. Without a shield to reflect and retain heat and radiation, the planet was dying, and with it, the survival of the Anunnaki civilization was at stake. Their scientists proposed a solution: to infuse their atmosphere with particles of gold. Gold, when dispersed in the upper layers of a planet's sky, could reflect harmful rays and stabilize climate conditions, but the metal was scarce on Nibiru. And so began the search beyond their world. Before any expedition could be launched, a struggle erupted within the royal hierarchy of Nibiru. The throne of Nibiru was not held peacefully. A war for succession broke out between two powerful figures: Alalu, the former king who claimed the throne by force, and Anu, a noble of pure royal blood who believed he was destined to rule by right. Their conflict was not merely political, it was celestial. The outcome of this battle would determine the fate of Nibiru. Anu challenged Alalu to ritual combat. In the ancient records, it said that Anu triumphed and reclaimed the throne, but Alalu did not die. He fled, escaping Nibiru in a ship of his own, charting a forbidden path through space. Where he landed would change the course of history forever. Alalu's vessel descended upon a young, primitive Earth, then covered in oceans, lush forests and volcanic plains. But beneath its crust, Alalu discovered what he hoped for most: gold. He transmitted a message back to Nibiru. Earth held the substance that could save their planet. It was a discovery of galactic proportions. Anu, now in power, took the report seriously. If gold truly existed in such quantities on Earth, then it must be harvested. But the journey was perilous, and the planet was untamed. A new mission was needed, and a trusted leader to guide it. Anu called upon one of his sons, Enki, a master of science, engineering, and alchemy. Enki was to lead a team of explorers and engineers to Earth, confirm Alalu's claims, and establish a base of operations. This marked the true beginning of the Anunnaki presence on Earth. Enki, known in later Sumerian and Akkadian mythology as the god of wisdom and creation, was not only a brilliant scientist but also a being of deep curiosity and adaptability. He accepted the mission to Earth, aware of its risks but driven by duty and vision. Enki and his team descended from the heavens in a celestial chariot, what modern interpretations might call a spacecraft. They touched down in the Persian Gulf region, where the mighty Tigris and Euphrates rivers would one day cradle civilization. The landing site became known as Eridu, the first Anunnaki outpost on Earth. There, Enki confirmed the presence of gold in the waters and in the land, especially in regions deep in the southern territories, what the texts call the Abzu, believed by many to correspond with ancient Africa. Mining operations began almost immediately, requiring sophisticated tools, geological knowledge, and precise engineering. The Anunnaki did not merely set up mining camps. They constructed a structured settlement complete with temples, observation towers, and administrative centers. Eridu became more than a base. It was the first city on Earth, Its name, in Sumerian, means home in the far away, symbolizing both its sacred purpose and its distance from Nibiru. Enki, as chief engineer, oversaw the development of water management systems, energy extraction, and environmental controls. These were not primitive structures. According to ancient inscriptions, the Anunnaki brought with them advanced knowledge of magnetics, metallurgy, and atmospheric sciences, what we today would call high technology. Meanwhile, Alalu, still living on Earth, was given honorary status, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. Though his discovery had saved Nibiru, his exile remained. He resided in Eridu under ceremonial protection, but his pride had been wounded. He knew the throne would never be his again. As gold shipments flowed back to Nibiru, the Anunnaki Council decided to expand the Earth operation. The mission was too important to leave in the hands of one leader. And so Anu sent another son, Enlil, to share command with Enki. This was not a harmonious arrangement. Enlil and Enki were half-brothers, sons of Anu by different mothers. And though both were brilliant in their own right, they represented two opposing forces. Enki was adaptable, scientific, and empathetic to Earth and its potential. Enlil was authoritarian, focused on order, hierarchy, and efficiency. To Enlil, Earth was a mission, not a mystery. With Enlil's arrival, leadership of Eridu was split. Enlil took command of the operational aspects, including administration and labor allocation. Enki remained the chief architect and technologist, but the seeds of divine rivalry had been sown, and these would have consequences far beyond their personal tensions. To support the Earth operation, additional personnel were stationed on Nibiru's way station, Mars. These Anunnaki, called the Igigi, were tasked with transporting gold from Earth to Mars, where it could then be launched back to Nibiru. The Igigi served as a kind of celestial relay crew, but they were also witnesses. Watchers. In later mythologies, the Igigi are remembered as beings who observed humanity from above and sometimes descended to intervene. Their existence hinted at a multi-layered structure of Anunnaki operations, those on Earth, those in orbit, and those back on Nibiru. At this early stage, everything seemed to be working. But below the surface, resentment was growing. The labor was grueling, the Earth was harsh, the Igigi were isolated, and the division between Enki and Enlil mirrored a deeper division among the Anunnaki themselves. The mission's success would soon come at a terrible cost. For thousands of Earth years, the Anunnaki worked the gold mines of the Abzu, enduring intense heat, harsh conditions, and monotonous labor. These were not the ruling elites of Nibiru, but the rank-and-file workers sent to extract the very material that would save their homeworld. Eventually, the burden became too much. The texts describe a dramatic event, an organized revolt by the workers. They laid down their tools, stormed the command centers, and surrounded Enlil's quarters. They demanded relief. They refused to continue. This was more than a labor strike. It was the first recorded rebellion in the cosmos. Enlil, furious, wanted the uprising crushed, but Enki, ever the diplomat and scientist, proposed another way. Why force gods to mine the Earth, he asked, when a new worker could be made? A being suited for the environment, a hybrid, part Anunnaki, part terrestrial. This was not a casual suggestion. It was the beginning of something that would forever change Earth and its destiny. Enki, with the help of his half-sister Ninhursag, the chief medical officer and a master of genetic sciences, began developing the blueprint for a new species, one that could be intelligent, durable, and obedient. They scoured Earth's existing life forms, examining hominid species already evolving on the planet. From among them, they selected a suitable candidate for modification, what modern science would classify as Homo erectus. The plan was to merge Anunnaki genes with that of the Earthling, a fusion of celestial and terrestrial DNA. This would not be simple engineering. It was delicate, sacred, and to some, deeply controversial. Enlil was wary. Others on the council were divided. But the rebellion demanded resolution, and the gold mission depended on a solution. And so, with sacred instruments and experimental procedures, the first genetic prototypes were created. Many failed, some were grotesque, but eventually, a successful hybrid emerged. They named him Adamu, the prototype human. Adamu was not a mindless drone. He could speak, he could learn, and more importantly, he could toil in the mines. Soon, a female counterpart was created, Tiamat, and together they represented the birth of humanity. But this new creation raised even more questions. Would they be allowed to reproduce? Were they property, or something more? Enki believed that humanity should evolve, learn, and eventually join the ranks of cosmic intelligence. Enlil disagreed, seeing them as tools, necessary but disposable. This ideological split set the stage for future events: the expulsion from the Eden compound, the gifting of knowledge, the Great Flood, and the eventual rise of human civilizations under divine watch. But it all began here, in the forges of Nibiru's crisis and the rebellion of celestial miners. What was meant as a temporary solution became a permanent species. We, humanity, are the living legacy of this ancient dilemma. The Anunnaki did not come to Earth as conquerors, they came as survivors, driven by necessity, divided by ego, and ultimately transformed by their own actions. They left behind more than gold mines and ruins. They left behind us. In the next episode, we will follow the continuation of this saga. How humanity grew under Anunnaki influence, how rivalries deepened among the gods, and how the fate of Earth became entangled with the politics of another world. The story of the Anunnaki has only just begun.